I'm excited today to have Rajesh Nagjee with us. Rajesh is a CEO mentor and business physicist who helps scale stage founders solve what he calls the velocity crisis, the widening gap between a company's systems and a CEO's capacity to run them at speed. Drawing on 30 years of experience across 15 countries, he reframes leadership through a systems lens. Inspired by Tim Galway's inner game, scaling equals systems, the outer game minus interference, the inner game. Rajesh is the creator of CEO Freedom OS, a 4-system operating model that helps overwhelmed CEOs to reduce interference, build decisions maturity, and to scale sustainably. His clients, including Amex KSA, Nielsen MEA, and BNI Middle East, routinely report clarity, reclaimed freedom, and ROI exceeding 500%. Rajesh, I'm so glad you were here. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, William, for having me. And I really, really enjoy your energy and, your podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been looking forward to our conversation.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
I would love to start with you sharing a little bit of your story with our listeners. I hit a few of the high points there, but I'd love to hear particularly about your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
So I got started in our ancestral business, which is established in 1880 by my grandfather. And we manufactured umbrellas and, we into so many different lines. I worked there for 12 years. And then I decided to take a sabbatical, asked my dad if it was okay to take a sabbatical. He said, how long? I said, I don't know, open-ended. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I want to pursue music. Took to my sitar and spent 3.5 years practicing 16 hours a day. And I realized that at the end of playing concerts around the world, that I had what it takes to be a very, very good amateur, but not a professional musician. That's when I got inspired to build a critical care hospital. So I built a hospital in the memory of my grandfather. It was a corporate hospital, 150 beds, critical care, 200 kilometers from Mumbai. And it was during that phase that I realized that I had this talent to coach. So I started getting certified in different disciplines, and I've put in 80,000 hours on my craft. And I have focused on applying physics to business, because everything that comes out of business schools is either philosophy, journalism, or history. And there are a few masters who have crafted, frameworks in physics, for example, the theory of constraints, outcome-driven innovation. So I started searching for all of these, and over the years, went and got certified in them. And, been having a great time working with over 350 CEOs on long-term projects over 3 to 5 years to help them accelerate growth. And that's basically my journey in a nutshell.
It's fascinating. I don't believe I've heard anybody marry business and physics before. That's a novel concept. What made you think of that?
It's very, it's one of the things that has always disturbed me for I don't know how many years is the statistic. And this statistics comes through so many different bodies of work, research that's conducted and published, that 95% of businesses fail to grow in any given 5 years, despite the fact that the founders are so very well-educated, articulate, experienced, talented, but their businesses fail to grow. So I started to think that why is that, there? And that statistic with 95%, there's got to be something that's absolutely missing. And that's the search then, that took me into this division between physics and non-physics. And when I found these frameworks with a very simple philosophy that the strength of the chain is equal to the strength of its weakest link. And unless you find that weakest link and strengthen it, you're not going to be able to increase the throughput or the output of that chain. And that's basically, in short, my journey with a one very simple one-line philosophy that allows me to then work with business owners and get them off all the things that they're doing directly into physics.
You help founders solve what you call the velocity crisis. And that's that gap between their systems and their capacity to run those systems at speed. How do you do that?
So, I came across this book called The Inner Game of Golf by Tim Galway, and I was absolutely impressed by his approach. And he's crafted this formula that performance is equal to potential minus interference. And then he goes on to describe this interference, that all the interference is in the inner game and the potential is in the outer game. And then I started looking at business, and I found that this is exactly the same scenario in business. Everybody is pursuing, all the goals in the outer game, whether it is sales or satisfaction or growth or velocity or scaling up and so on and so forth. But that velocity is not sustainable unless the inner game velocity matches the velocity of the outer game. And so that's pretty much, what I do is bring about an alignment between the desired outer game velocity with the inner game velocity, because fear, doubt, anxiety, all of those kind of things slow people down, and the quality of decisions that they end up taking slows everything down.
What are some of the interference pieces that you see most often?
With every single founder, as they start growing, the dream is to grow their company, but you can't grow the company unless you grow your costs. So whether the costs are capital costs or whether they're operational costs or manpower costs and so on and so forth. And then comes the whole, the dog and the tail, and the tail starts wagging the dog. And then it's a mad rush all the time, constantly, to, make sure that you're going to make payroll and so on and so forth. So the fear, doubt, anxiety, sleepless nights, all the rest of it pretty much clouds up the inner power of founders, and they're not able to bring their best game to every single situation that's in front of them. So this is the widespread phenomena that I've seen. And unless you have clear space, unless you're able to bring all your resources to work on the problem that you're working on at that point, rather than getting distracted and pulled in 20 different ways, you're not going to be able to succeed. Because success is really a function of the quality of decisions that founders or business owners take in 4 areas: strategy, execution, people, and cash. It's the quality of decisions. And if the quality of decisions starts to improve, results start to improve.
And that's why you created the Freedom OS for CEOs.
Yes. So the freedom. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so how do they begin to implement this? Like, where do they start?
So the Freedom OS basically is, at the end of the day, everything is a conversation, isn't it? So
That's
we
true.
start with temporality. Temporality is how we experience time. So when I looked at the past, present, and future, and everybody's kind of caught up with the anxiety of the future and regret of the past, and pretty much they can't really do anything about either the past or the future in the present. I started looking at this temporality, how we experience time, as a man-made concept. Somebody made it up. Animals don't have it. So I said, why don't I create another temporality? So I took the present, put it in the center, shifted the past a little bit, shifted the future a little bit, till I got these intersections. And now there's a completely different story in front of us, because we have 2 intersections: the intersection of the past and present, and the intersection of the present and future. And that's really where the Freedom OS begins. Because now we're going to look at what are all the things that are troubling people, whether it's the leadership team or the founder or all of them together. Is everything that they are moaning about, whining about, struggling with, and that all of that is at the intersection of the past and present. So I get them to park everything there, and they say, okay, now let's move over to this intersection of the present and future. which is the land of possibility, the land of opportunity, and let's see what we can create from there. That's how the Freedom OS begins. And then we've got different aspects of the Freedom OS. The first is the client magnet. And in the client magnet, we really look at what are all the things that the target audience really desire, the outcomes that they're looking for, which are not at all satisfied, which are very important, not at all satisfied. How configure all of them in the products and services so that they start magnetizing the ideal clients to them. And all of this is possible at the intersection of the present and future, because otherwise at the intersection of the past and present, it's always, yeah, we've done that, it didn't work, and there's all that interference. So that's where we source everything, is at the intersection of the present and future. The second is delegation OS. So the delegation OS, is a very subtle difference between how people delegate and how they need to delegate. So if you are going to delegate projects and tasks like almost everybody else, and then you're going to put a scope there, then what you have created is you transformed your leadership team into vendors, because that's how you operate with vendors. But when you want to scale up, you want partners. And the only way in which you're going to transform people into partners is if you can delegate ownership and outcomes and give them the freedom to figure out their processes. The ownership that gets unleashed is going to then create that momentum and move things forward. So that's basically how the whole structure, in a very short nutshell, if I may, this is how we go to work, and slowly, that whole shift happens from where the founders are leading the leadership team from. They're no longer standing at the intersection of the past and present. They start standing at the intersection of the present and future, create new possibilities, new futures, new agreements, consensus, get everybody enrolled to move in that direction moving forward.
I love that. And I think there's so much power in that intersection that you're describing between the present and the future. You're right. I see people in my practice the same, living in that intersection of the present and the past. And there is not the same power there.
Yeah.
I think that what you've described is a phenomenal framework to help people gain clarity. You've worked with companies all over the world. Can you give an example of how you've helped a company move from where they were stuck into a place of incredible growth?
See, the thing about being stuck, if you really sort of open the hood of that and look into the engine of why that car is stuck, it always boils down to, I am right and you're wrong. And I told you so. And all those kind of variations of that theme. So that when you propose something new, it's that acidic, I'm right and you're wrong phenomena. We've been there, we've done that. I told you it's not going to work, is what kills possibility. So this is basically what we do with all the leadership teams, is to get them to move from here to there. And very strangely, what I've discovered is that what really anchors people to the intersection of the past and present is their relationship with their parents. Because when you trace back your own relationship with your parents when you were a child, parenting is a tough job. Parenting is not easy. And parents can be friendly, but they can never be your friends, because parents need to make sure that you know right from wrong and you do what needs to be done to grow and, your health and all the rest of it. So there are all these minor hurts and pains. You want to go out, stay out with your friends. They say, no, you feel hurt, you feel dejected. And all of that baggage collectively, small little traumas, is what people bring into when they are playing together as a team. So we get them to complete that relationship with their parents, put it into the past, and then now we've got a team that's ready to engage and really sort of move things forward, supporting each other. Because at the end of the day, business is a team sport. It's not a solo game. It's not like golf that you can go out and play. So it's like football, and unless you trust the people, unless you're willing to pass things are not going to move forward.
That's a great analogy. I love the way you're describing this, because I love the idea of a stuck car being traced back to stuck thinking.
Yes.
And that's the inner game that you're talking about, that Galway talks about in the book. It's this idea that what is happening internally is always going to have an impact on what's happening externally. I think sometimes leaders lose sight of that truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's at the end of the day, we are all kind of beings of energy. If your energy is trapped somewhere or soiled and there's stress, there's anxiety, what people don't seem to realize is that stress and anxiety creates these hormones, the ones that create so much of problems, cortisol being one of the main things. So over a period of time, it sort of starts diminishing our ability to even listen to what's happening. So just imagine a fighter pilot who's got to take split-second decisions. He needs to be present. He needs to be present like a jungle cat with,
That's right.
the nuances of what's moving. And if you're you lose that edge, then you start to hit mediocrity.
Mm, mm. Which is not the goal of any great leader that I know of.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your business. I want to ask you this. You have to lead at a higher level today than you did 5 years ago. Your clients, your team demand that of you. And 5 years from now, that same thing is going to be true. How do you stay on top of your game? How do you level up with the new leadership skills that your clients and your team are going to need you to have?
Can I confess?
Please.
I realize I'm extremely arrogant. And that arrogance really comes from my ability to do things. And I said, look, arrogance is not going to work because I'm going to lose my connection with my wife, with my son, with everybody else. So I said, now how am I going to deal with this? I'm very effective in what I do. So being arrogant and my ability to do things, they go together, and it's a very deadly combination. So way back when I started thinking about this, and I realized that every time, a student gets promoted, let's say from the 7th grade to the 8th grade, he's capable, he's competent to write the 7th standard exams, and that's why he got promoted. The moment he lands in the 8th standard, the problem is that he's not competent to write the 8th standard exam. He's got to go through the whole year to develop the competence. And that was a big aha moment for me when I realized it and I saw it from this point of view that every promotion lands you into incompetence and it's a chicken and egg situation. So what I do is at the end of every quarter, I need to deal with my close buddy and friend, Mr. Arrogance. And I go and look in the mirror and say, hey, buddy, you're an incompetent father, an incompetent husband, an incompetent friend to self, and an incompetent coach. And then I go and start looking for evidence, and I actually find that evidence. So every quarter, I figure out what am I going to do to go to the next level. So it's disrupting my way of being, disrupting my arrogance, and then making sure that I am kind of every quarter getting promoted in all these 4 areas. Now, people are lucky if they get a promotion in maybe 5 years, 10 years. I get 4 promotions every single year, and that promotion helps me to stay on top of my game. My arrogance is receded. It's come down to maybe 1 on 10. It's not gone at all, but 1 on 10 is definitely better than being 9 on 10. And so that's the scenic route answer to your question. How do I keep myself on top of my game? And so I keep disrupting myself by declaring myself incompetent in all the areas that matter to me, find ways to develop those competencies and keep growing.
That is a unique and great answer. Geez, I think that so often we overlook the power of humility. And that's really what you're describing is the intentional development of humility over time. And you have zeroed in on this and seen, hey, this is a problem. And I'm gonna attack this just like I would attack any other problem with a systemic approach. And I love that you have seen growth over time and have seen this subside. Like you say, it never goes away completely.
It
But
doesn't.
you've been so intentional.
This, since you mentioned this, it suddenly occurred to me that I didn't have a problem till 1989, to be precise, till 5th December of 1989, because my father passed on that day. And till that day, he was the guy who kept me at bay, kind of downsizing my arrogance. But after he passed, this, what I've taken on, this ritual is in his memory that helps me. I look in the mirrors as if I'm looking into his eyes, and I'm kind of sharing with him very candidly, hey, Dad, I'm not competent in these 4 areas. And then I just wait for some sort of intuition, which I
Mm,
take as his voice telling me, okay, do this, go to this coach, do this, whatever it is that he says. So I think that connection back with my father, again, leading us back to that sense of completion, because I
mm.
really want to show up every single day as being content. I want to make my father win. He's my greatest coach, my friend, philosopher, guide, and so on.
I love that. So that leads me to the next question. When you think about your business, your practice, what is one thing that you want most in the years to come?
I've got another 5 years left before I'm going to sort of just sort of stop working. In these 5 years, I want to convert everything that I have learned in the last 30 years, especially working with business owners, and transform all of this into a body of work that my son, as a non executive chairman, can run. So that
Mm,
from a legacy point of view, the work that I've done, it has huge impact on business owners and the CXOs and the leadership team and everybody else in some way, shape, or form that continues at least till my son runs it. And he's very exposed to everything that I do, but he's a filmmaker, so he doesn't have time to do what I'm doing, but he'll definitely be able to. So this is my big project, my big dream. And,
yeah,
slowly the process has begun. And probably in a couple of years, we will get that thing moving, some sort of a process, whether it's a franchise operation, I don't know. So that's really, really my big dream of making this. And then I want to turn this over to, a set of people who can run this without me.
I love that. I think that legacy thinking so often is something we don't think about until the very end,
Yeah.
but you're preparing now for the end that you want to see happen. As you have been a continual learner in your journey, is there a book that has made a big difference that you would recommend to the leaders who are listening?
That's a question for me. I can't give you a simple, straight answer because I've got to tell you what happens whenever I walk into a bookstore. So if I go into a bookstore, let's say, for example, whenever I'm traveling, these airlines have, the airports have very nice bookstores. So I go and browse and I really get attracted. So, these new shiny objects, books, and then I look at them and I'm so tempted to buy it. Then I ask one question: who got rich? Did humanity get rich? If
Mm,
humanity got rich, I buy the book. If
mm.
that's the answer that I get. And if I get the answer, no, humanity did, maybe the author did, I put the book back. So from that lens, the book in which humanity got rich, there are quite a few of them. So there are two I would name. The first is The Goal, Dr. Eli Goldratt's Goal, which he talks about, or he shares the theory of constraint, which was my starting off for how do you apply physics to business. And then the
Mm,
other one is Outcome Driven Innovation or Jobs to be Done by Tony Ulrich. So these two books, and there are so many others, but these two are the ones I would recommend for business owners to really, really sort of dive deep into them because they remove the odds or the probability of failure and start increasing the probability of success. And that's really what you want in your
yeah,
business. Yes.
that's that's true. So with that, I'll ask one last question. In that vein, it's very easy for somebody to look at you from the outside and say, "Oh my goodness, so successful. Like his journey's just been up and to the right. He's never really struggled like I struggle. He's never had the problems that I have." And we know that's fallacious. We know that's not true. Everybody struggles as part of the entrepreneurial journey. No journey is just up and to the right. So in that vein of transparency, I would ask you this. If I had the ability right now to snap my fingers and solve one problem in your business, what would you want that problem to be?
So the problem that I am struggling with right now is I've got 4 books that are near completion, and those books have got stuck because of various reasons. The biggest reason is that there's been a shift in how I, define my target audience and what are the issues and how am I working with them. And it's I just need to complete those books, push them over the tipping point, and get them published. So if there's anything that you can offer, I'd be very grateful. That would get me started on that, because everybody has tried, including my wife, and they say so many things, but it doesn't work. I'm just kind of sitting there and say, yeah, one day I'll do it. And then, I'm doing great stuff. It's not that I'm just sitting and kind of watching TV or anything. But is there anything that you would offer me that would really get me going to get those books over the hill, over the tipping point?
What a great question. I think I'm working on finishing my third book right now. And for me, and I'm not going to say this applies to everybody, but for me, what has worked is setting aside and apportioning a period of time every morning, which for me is about 30 minutes. And I'm going to write for 30 minutes every morning. Right. And I don't write and edit at the same time. That's the temptation that I fall into. I want to write and then I want to edit it and then smooth it out, massage it. No, you don't write it. It's two different parts of your brain. And so I just write. I just get words on screen, right? Every morning during a writing season. And then I'll set aside time to go back and edit that later. But my goal is just to get the words out. That has helped me get to the finish line twice now, and almost three that we're almost completed. So that's the best counsel that I would give you, is to build a discipline like that, where you have set aside this time, and whether you feel like it or not, we're going to sit down, we're going to put words on screen or words on paper. And that has helped me to get there, to get past the period of being stuck, get past the wall.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for sharing from your own journey. It's always, easier to consume what people have learned from their old journey as opposed to landing in like advice. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the whole idea behind this show. You've been so generous today in sharing much of your journey and in sharing so many of the insights that you've gained along the way and how you've helped others. I know our listeners are going to want to continue to learn from you and learn more about what you do. What is the best way for them to do that?
So there are two ways. One is to connect with me on LinkedIn, because I post a lot. I'm very regular in posting at least 5 times in a week. And the other is to visit my website, which is below. They can look at it and sort of, or even just write to me on my email, which is there in my name. And I'm very happy to respond. If there are people are serious, they want to learn something, I'm very ready to respond.
I love that. And we'll have those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today and your generosity in sharing
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. I really, really enjoyed spending time with you.